Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I got my friend Vishnu, who's a blue belt from Kaizen Jiu Jitsu, where we both used to train together. Vishnu is also from Malaysia, just like me, so today I'm making nasi lemak with a fried fish. Hey guys, so I have my friend Vishnu here. We used to train together over at Kaizen Jiu Jitsu here in Perth. Because he's Malaysian, I'm Malaysian, we got classic Malaysian food today. Nasi lemak with ikan goreng, so coconut rice, fried fish, fried anchovies, peanuts, cucumber, boiled egg, sambal, you know, the classic Malaysian, and fortune cookies at the end. Just something I like to do, you know, just for the end of the video.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Vishnu, just tell us a bit about yourself. How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu and like, yeah.
I guess before jiu-jitsu I was doing taekwondo for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me study.
Yeah.
And I was doing that for about 10 years growing up.
Yeah.
And then it was more so like, I guess, forced upon by the parents, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially growing up in Malaysia and stuff, everyone's like, oh yeah, do taekwondo, it's really good for you, blah blah blah. But I think it was good because then eventually I moved to Melbourne for uni.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I started doing Krav Maga for a bit. So
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
yeah, so I did that for about a year and a half, mainly because I just wanted to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
And during that time also, like, I used to have friends and stuff who used to tell me, oh, you should check out jiu-jitsu, you know, and like one of the guys who was actually at uni was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he was like, yeah man, you should come and try it and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe, it sounds interesting, because like especially the movement aspect of it was what interested me initially.
Okay.
And then I think like a lot of people nowadays, I just listen to a lot of Joe Rogan's podcast, and the way him and Jocko Willink and stuff, the way they describe jiu-jitsu and like what you learn and stuff, I was like, oh man, I gotta try. I really gotta give this thing a shot.
Yeah.
And when I moved, because I had a year off between uni and work, during that time, I moved back to KL. And then while I was there, I decided to try out jiu-jitsu for the first time.
Oh, so your first class was at KL?
Yeah, I was in KL.
Which is at Monarchy.
Monarchy MMA, yeah.
Where I used to train as well. But were you at Bangsa? Okay. And then you had Professor Bruno then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did it there, and I have to say, for the first 3 or so months, every class was like a mission, because I had to like psych myself up to get to class. No, legit, like I would be sitting at home and just being like, okay, come on, just, you can do it, just go again, you know, because it was just so, I guess, like not intimidating, but because everything is just so new, you know what's going on, and like I'm looking at the blue belts there and just being like, man, like they seem like superheroes, you know, like effortless, and then you'll be sitting there and questions are asked about a move, and you know, oh, but can you do this, can you do that, and I'm like, man, I don't even know what the first move is.
You kind of actually answer my second question, like, you know, like what made you start martial arts? And I think the second part of the question, what made you stay? Because like you said, I know it is like intimidating, but what part of it makes you feel like you want to stay?
Yeah, I guess, because for me, the thing is that the starting martial arts would have almost probably the first one was forced upon by parents, being like, it's good for you. But now when I look back, I'm super grateful, because I think when I think of it, it's like, if I didn't do taekwondo growing up, jiu-jitsu or any other sort of martial art would seem so foreign.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, like wearing a gi and stuff in
it's like
it's like you're relatively comfortable. You're like, oh yeah, this kind of makes sense as a class, there's a sensei or an instructor and things like that. So, and then I guess then as I said, like the second part, let's try it again, was listening to the podcast and things like that, and then just being like, man, I gotta give this thing a shot. Yeah. The thing that made me stay, or has made me stay, I think once you start getting better, because it's quite a physical feedback mechanism of, you know, one day you are pretty bad, you get tapped out by everyone. The next day you don't get tapped out so quickly. The third day you maybe can tap someone out, and it just keeps evolving from that. And the thing like of getting a new belt, right? Of like, I remember when I first started, it was very much like, I looked at the blue belts and I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to be a blue belt because they seem to know everything and I know nothing. But then when you get that blue belt, then you're like, you still don't know anything. You still know, you feel like you don't know anything. But there's a thing of like, and then you see people who, because now I've also, like I've spoken to Brandon at Kaizen and saying I want to like start learning how to teach.
Okay.
And he's been like very supportive and stuff. But his first thing was like, okay, if you want to learn how to teach, just come for the beginner classes. Look for the newest person on the mat, and you just pair up with them. That will teach you how to, because there's a thing of like, you know a skill, you know a technique, you can perform the technique, but how can you verbally and physically transfer that knowledge to someone else? And so I found like doing that, and then when you're teaching someone for the first time, then you're like, wow, I actually know something.
But you don't realize it.
No, you don't realize it, especially when you're going against higher belts or people who are more advanced, because you think that, wow, they know everything, I know nothing. But it's interesting how the roles flip, and now you're the teacher almost and the other student. So I found that's kept me going. And also, I think a lot of people get this especially when they move like a blue belt, you feel like you hit a plateau. And you feel like either things are...
like, I know what you mean. Like when you're a white belt, first you come in, it's a lot to take in. But once you get everything, you're like, oh, everything you learn is like, oh yeah, I got something new, and then you think you're improving because you're taking so much. But then once you hit blue belt, it's like you know what you need to fix, what you need to improve, and you always feel like this, you're not good enough kind of thing. Whereas white belt, you can't pinpoint what you have done well, what you haven't done well. It's just like everything is good or everything is bad. And your increment is like any small improvement that you make is like a guaranteed improvement to the game. You know what I mean? Because it's like you don't know anything and now you know A and tomorrow you know B. Whereas the thing when you're like at a blue belt, you're like, oh, I know the alphabets now. But I still don't know how to put these words together. I don't know words together. But I need to figure out how am I going to do this now. How do you compare the BJJ here in Perth and back home in Malaysia? Maybe you haven't trained much back home, but like how would you compare this, the training and the overall like style of the BJJ here and there? I think as you said, I wouldn't be extremely, I guess my answer wouldn't be as well-rounded because I only trained there for like 4 months at only one place. But I found that, I don't know whether it's just, to me, the style of training when I was there seems a bit more of, I found it more difficult to understand. It could just have been where I was and stuff, because it felt when you were beginning. I think I was beginning BJJ. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it felt like every class was just, let's start from one obscure position, and you know, you do some move, and then the next class is like, oh, let's start from another obscure. So like one class you'd be like, oh, let's start from half guard, and then you're gonna do X, Y, and Z. And then the next class you'd be like, oh, let's start from back, and you're gonna do X, Y, and Z. And then for someone who doesn't know what's going on, it felt like there wasn't there's no connection to. There was no connection. It's just like learning random stuff all over the place. So I think that probably also led into like why I wasn't super comfortable when I was there to go for classes, because it just felt like nothing made sense. There was no roadmap to, okay, if you can just learn A and then you learn B and then you learn C, like okay, then I know next I'm going to learn D.
Whereas there I was like, oh, A, Z, Y,
and
Q,
then,
and then you're like, what?
Yeah. I think that's the goal for a lot of gyms actually. Like I think that's just the classic way that they've been taught.
Yeah.
The coach comes in, has an idea in his head on the drive there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll teach this today, and then he teaches it. You know, I think now a big part of it is Danaher, I believe. I think Danaher played a big role into why people. If you see marketing in Jiu-Jitsu, is they use a lot of the word systematic. You know, that system. You know, system or words like that. And all kinds of synonyms to kind of say that they are systematically breaking down how they do things or how they teach things. But I think the only guys who actually do that are people who train with Danaher or people who somehow built it up themselves or had an educated past, like Lachlan Giles has his PhD, so he's an educated guy who's been around academics and can form a structure for to teach something. And so all the B team guys, all the new wave guys, like they can teach things well, but it's also the level you have in the language that you're teaching. I think I saw some old Marcelo Garcia videos back in before he learned to speak English. I think I found subtitles for that one, and it looked a lot smoother. It looked a lot better because he's speaking Portuguese. But then when he's teaching all these techniques in English, it's a bit stunted. So it's also how good you are at the language.
The language that you're teaching it in.
Yeah. I think how do you compare the styles of just the jiu-jitsu, not so much the training, but like.
Oh, when I was in KL, the style was hard. Like people, but then that's the thing, right? I was training at Monarchy, which is, I don't know whether it still is, but at that point was the pinnacle of MMA, gym / whatever in KL, right? So anyone who's is going to be training at Monarchy.
So all the big names of Malaysian, even the ones who didn't grow up in Malaysia and train in Malaysia, if they come to Malaysia,
that's where they go, right? That was the place that you go. It's kind of like when people go to like, I don't know, to TriStar or something. But like everyone goes to TriStar because TriStar is TriStar. But then when I moved here, I went to Kaizen, which is more of a hobbyist gym. So the style is obviously very different. The crowds that you're attracting are different, which I think for me suited me a lot more. Because I never got into it to compete. I just got into it. As I said, I was more interested in the self-development, the personal development aspect of it, and just doing something that's difficult. And funnily enough, I actually just told Brandon this only like last week. I was tossing up between a few gyms in Perth, and then I was tossing up between like M1 FC in Osborne Park, Kaizen. I think there's another one somewhere, which was around the city area-ish.
Gracie Baja is close to the
it could have been. I don't know whether Gracie was open at that point, but And then I had actually seen Brandon had written a blog post. They have like articles on the website on the Kaizen Lab
members page or something.
No, actually on the public website. And he had written one about something about how to learn and how to like the process of learning. And when I read that, as you said, like about Lachlan Giles and stuff, like people who, not to put anyone else down, but like I think that educated tertiary education plus like that understanding of frameworks, and because Brandon's like an IT consultant, a project manager and stuff, so he's got that framework mindset. So and similarly, systemizing things and having a roadmap. And so when I read that article, was when I was like, oh, this probably sounds like the place
to be
for me, because of that methodology of that, a bit more thought going into the training. And so that's kind of what made me. So I would say like I went from a MMA style gym in KL to like a family gym or like a hobbyist gym here. But I don't think there's a reflection of the two places, if that makes sense. Like I could probably go to that same sort of gyms here. You know, if I went to a hobbyist gym or I went to an MMA gym here, if I went to M1 FC, I would assume the culture would be similar to Monarchy.
Yeah.
As both, you know, they have young people are there or just training for fights and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I remember what you said about Louis Stroh when he came by to train with me at Louis Stroh. You said the same feel like in Monarchy.
Yes.
Yeah, and it really is like the MMA gyms when they have like a jiu-jitsu class, it does build the same environment. Like that's why I joined Louis Stroh.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me of back home.
Yes.
Because I just liked it too much. So like Monarchy was a big influence in my life. You know, it was a big deal for me to leave there. Anytime I go home, I still have to go back. Even though the team's kind of split up now, you know, I still try to go back, and whoever's still around at Monarchy, I'll try to go back and still visit them. You know.
What have you learned so far from your 6 or so months of training and teaching full time?
So I knew this before, but it didn't really kick in until I became a coach full time. How strong it actually is that if you're a student, and more specifically an athlete who's competing, you have to be very selfish in your training. You have to help others, of course. You have to be a nice, decent person, but when it comes to your own development, you have to come first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the more you help people, the more it takes away from you being effective and successful in the competition. But when it comes to being a coach, it's very selfless. You know, you have to give up a few hours of sleep, give up a few good meals. You know, especially now I teach in Joondalup and I teach in Louis Stroh, so sometimes I have to go back and forth. And the time and financial aspect of that is very, it gets a bit difficult. But you do have to keep giving, and the giving will never stop, because everybody is relying on your words and your teaching to make them successful. For me, I always like to teach. I've always said this since I was in like high school, that anything that I'm good at, I love to teach. So it just happens to be that I like to teach and I like fighting, and I just put the two and two together. Yeah. And I'm very lucky to now be doing what I always wanted to do, because I wanted to do this since I was 16, 18. I wanted to teach martial arts. I wanted to be my whole life. I just wanted to be in the gym all the time, and now I actually am doing it, getting paid for it, and happy I get the opportunity to. But it is a very selfless lifestyle. Everything you do is for your students. Anytime that they have struggles in their personal life, you have to take it as well, and all the emotions that they're feeling, you have to take it to a certain degree as well, so that you can empathize for them. Where I think some gyms that I used to visit and train, where they kind of just brush you off, because if they take that emotional stress, they don't want it, because they're just a business running a business. I'm lucky in the fact that I don't take the fees from the students. It's just I get paid hourly. So I do have the opportunity to care for them a bit more, because it's not, it doesn't. It's not a direct.
It's not a direct thing between the student to.
I'm not the business owner and things like that. I'm lucky in the fact that I can do that. I have the opportunity to do that. I'm still young, so I can still make a few sacrifices here and there and catch up. I still have time to catch up. In a later time, right? So I don't mind struggling financially now, as long as I find time to build up on it again later on.
Is there anything you've done that doesn't, like, you're saying you want to do this since you're young, right? Since you're 16 and stuff. And has it, when it's now so far in the last 6-8 months, has it been as you thought it would be, or are there aspects of it that you're like, oh, this actually isn't as great as I thought it would be?
I think it was everything I expected it to be, except for the how to say, the feeling of when your athletes go out to compete in a very competitive competition. Like, it's a very tall order where you see the brackets and it's all tough guys, and I have to send my students out there. I have a bit of doubt in myself. Well, did I do enough to help them, and are they really ready for this challenge? And every time they've gone out, they've done well. I can't say that they've done badly. Just because they lost doesn't mean they've done badly. I've seen people who've won matches who did horribly. They have terrible technique and didn't do anything well, but they still won the match. So every time I send my students out to compete, every time I see that they're struggling in a match, it eats into me as well, and because I do get worried, because they're almost like almost like family to me in a way, right? They really impact me emotionally, which shouldn't impact their competition as much as possible, because my beliefs is that emotion shouldn't change the way you fight or anything. As much as you can, stay away from using emotion to benefit you and not affect you in competition. If you use emotion to benefit you, that's when you can use it, that's when I allow it. But if emotions affect you negatively in the match, in any competition, any sparring, I tell all my students to stay away from it. But I think the hardest part for me has been watching my students struggle, watching my students get close to injuries. I think dealing with here's another thing, is dealing with personal issues they're going through, and I have to be understanding that they can't make it, or they're injured, or they have lives outside of the gym. I have to be very understanding of that. Now I still have a small team, but I'm waiting for the day I have like 50, 60, 100 students or whatever it is, and then you have 20 guys who can't make it because they got families or what, or holiday, and then I gotta sit there and be okay with it. I think now it's just a taste of for myself, is a taste of how I have to be a very understanding person for everyone's personal life, and it's a lot easier said than done. Because I love it when my team's at the gym. I get to sit in the gym and everybody's there, but there are going to be days where nobody rocks up. There's classes I've taught, it's just me and another guy. Right? Last week there's 20 guys. Next week is like me and one guy sitting there who doesn't know how to do anything, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's just me and you. I'll try to help him out the best I can. So you have my advice for somebody who wants to be a coach one day is you don't just teach them techniques. You do have to be very understanding of their situation outside of the gym, because it's only an hour of their day that they're there. Maybe 3 hours, 4 hours max. You have to be very understanding of it, because 20 hours in the day they're not with you. They're somewhere else. So you do have to be a very understanding person, very selfless person. But the problem with me is I have to be both an athlete and a coach at the same time, because I'm still competing myself. So I think that's the biggest struggle that I'm dealing with now, is that I've got to develop myself and make myself known and make myself seen as a legitimate competitor while still being a legitimate coach, which is very difficult to do when there's completely different mindsets. Completely different paths.
The selflessness and selfishness.
It's because when I spar with my guys, if I'm helping them compete, then I'm doing things to help them. If I'm competing myself, I gotta smash them because I gotta help myself. So it's a very difficult thing to go through. But the way I've done it is just you have to know when to switch which one on, switch which one off, and work from there.
I always like this quote. I heard it on Joe Rogan quite a while ago. I'm not sure who it's attributed to, but it says, "Idle hands are the devil's plaything." In that, if you don't, if you don't have anything to do, you're gonna end up finding something which is most likely not going to be good for you.
Very true.
And for me, that's one of the aspects that martial arts or trying to just do different things helps me. Just stick to a routine, have something going, and just have to commit to that. BJJ in particular, the thing that made me stay was actually when I moved from Perth to Karratha. And when I first got there, I never lived in a rural town before, right? Or rural area. I moved from KL to Melbourne to Perth.
Yeah.
So it's always been big cities.
Yeah.
I've never been to like a mining sort of area and stuff like that. So I moved to Karratha, and I felt so out of my depth. Right? It's a new place. Everything's new. I don't know what's going on. Work. I'm not working in an office anymore. I'm working at a gas plant. Like everything was just new, right? But I just needed a sense of normalcy. So the first day that I got there and I went to work for the first day and I come back and everything was just super overwhelming. I just looked up the BJJ gym there. They had a no-gi night. I remember it was Thursday night, they had a no-gi. And I was like, I just gotta go. And then I went there and trained there. Everyone was super nice, super welcoming. And then once I was done with the class, I was like, okay, that's a sense of, it's almost like a home away from home. And for me now, I think that's just BJJ mainly in particular because of how most places, like people are super friendly, people are super welcoming in gyms, is that for me now that's a thing of like, if I choose to move or anywhere, I know that if I find my local gym, I can find my community.
And it doesn't matter where you are in the world.
No.
Yeah. Everyone's like.
Yeah, and I found that it's a bit like Fight Club. You know, if you do jiu-jitsu and you meet somebody else who does jiu-jitsu, you're both in the you're like you can connect with someone just because you both strangle each other, you know what I mean, and you form friendships and bonds with people initially over the fact that you train together.
It's so interesting that you can meet somebody new and maybe you don't have anything connecting you verbally, right? But when you roll, you just
it's a dance. It's actually like a dance. It's a dance. It's a dance that both of you know moves to. And you just flow.
And that's why I prefer flow rolls. You get to have a much better conversation than
both trying to prove your point.
Both trying to prove your point, right? Like an argument, right? Like a competition could be compared to like an argument, but like you have a flow roll. If you're just a hobbyist, I miss being a hobbyist sometimes, where it doesn't matter if I win or lose, but now I have to be quite strict. Like every day is like, if you wasted your rounds in the gym, you wasted that whole day. So it's very difficult to be like a competitor and a coach, where I got to help my guys get better, but I also need to get myself better.
Every day is precious.
Every day is so precious, man. If you wasted one training session, it's just wasted time, man. You didn't improve yourself. You didn't improve everybody else. So that day might as well not have happened, right? So, man. No, thank you very much for coming by.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Good, classic Malaysian. Dampisang and the whole nasi lemak. Very classic. A little joke for the Malaysians for my shirt. So fortune cookie. You can pick which one you want. You want to go 3?
Yep.
And of course, cham. For those who don't know, tetarik and what was it?
Wait, do I read out what's on here?
Yeah, read out what's that.
The longer the night lasts, the more our dreams will be. I don't know what that really would mean.
Yeah, maybe.
But
lucky numbers are back for the people who do lotto. Or like 4D. Alright, thank you very much, guys. We'll see you in the next one.